I am Ray, and if you always feel tired and you don't know why, well then it could be because of your thoughts. Have you ever thought of that? Imagine waking up replenished, full of joy and excitement, full of juice for the day ahead. Don't you want to be juicy? If this is so, I will show you how to do this using what I call the Align method. Now, here's the problem. You got two things. You got life and you have death. Life is inspiration. Motivation, desire, action, expressing yourself in the world. I think you get it. But what is death? It's the opposite. No inspiration, no motivation, no desire, inaction. Depression. Lethargy, being tired all the time. So, once we realize that, oh, wait a minute, I am aligned with death energy, now you know exactly how to fix it. When you break things down to the fundamental level, everything becomes so much more simpler and easy to manage. But here's the thing. Life with a capital L is the balance between these two forces. Yin yang, death life, darkness light, entropy energy. So we don't want to look at the death force as bad, because that is not the problem. The problem is the imbalance of these two forces, and that is what leads us to death. So the first thing you want to ask yourself, does this feel just like a temporary problem, a temporary contraction phase? Like how when you use up all your juice for the day, at night you feel tired. Of course you're going to feel lethargic, no desire, no motivation, because it's time for sleep. But if you're tired all the time, it represents a deeper underlying issue. So just remember, it's normal to have contraction phases. It's normal to feel tired. But if it's perpetual, if it's just you're stuck there all the time, imbalanced. And this creates stuckness. Life is flow. So we want to begin orienting our attention on the spiritual journey, or just on your life journey in general, to return to balance and flow. Now, a super easy way to approach this is that life can only be experienced in the present moment. So, the more you're separated from the present moment, the closer you get to death. So, like 9 times out of 10, the problems that create imbalance are always the same. It begins with an attachment, which is some kind of memory stored in the body, usually negative. You can call it trauma, you can call it negative karma, doesn't matter. But there is an attachment, if you think about it, some kind of blockage in the way of the flow. Like some sticks in a little stream. It's blocking everything up. So you want to unblock the blockage and allow life to flow freely once again. The attachment leads to identity, and the identity fuels thoughts. So what we want to do moving forward is begin paying attention to those attachments, to where we're stuck, to the problems that manifest in our life. Because if life is the source of harmony, problems arise because we are out of harmony. Life is always telling us, hey look, there's something wrong here. Pay attention. Or it's also telling you, good job, you're on the right path. So what we can do, we begin paying attention to our thoughts. And then we dive deeper and we dive deeper within ourselves. Because it's probably kind of hard to really get to the root of the problem right away. But we can go from the surface level and then trace it back to within us, the source. So ask yourself this. What are the things in your life that are really bothering you? Because what will happen is that you'll judge your experiences and you'll enter into resistance because life isn't going the way you want it to. You really want life to be this way, but it's not doing that. It's going somewhere else. And that will create resistance to life, which brings us closer to death. And the more often we're in resistance to life, guess what? You're gonna be tired all the time. Because it's like there's this underlying battle going on that's just hemorrhaging all of your energy. It's just a never-ending struggle. You're always trying, but nothing seems to work out. But the moment you return into flow, into harmony, into balance, the problems of the world begin solving themselves. So the only reason we want to begin paying attention to the problems outside of ourselves moving forward is to reflect on ourselves. The problem is stemming from us. All we have to do, heal the imbalance within ourselves, the problem goes away. You don't got to spend your whole life trying to put out fires. So what happens? The attachment builds this construct of this identity, of ego. And the ego produces a whole bunch of thoughts that surround this identity. And what the thoughts do, they perpetually keep us stuck in the past. They keep us ruminating on the future, and they keep us judging our current experiences, perpetually separating us from the present moment. So, the stronger your attachments are to your ego, to your mind, the stronger your identity, the more you will suffer in life. You know, people like to think that, oh, well, I know so much and that's why I suffer. I'm so smart. Ignorance is bliss. No, it's not the right way of looking at it. You don't suffer because you know more than everyone else. You suffer because you don't stop thinking. The stronger your mind is, the more intelligent you are, the harder it is to stop thinking. So, what are thoughts? Thoughts are electrical impulses in the brain. They are energy. So, when you're thinking all the time, all of your life juice is being used up by thoughts. But people who are less intelligent, who don't think as much, they don't have that problem. So it's not about knowing more or thinking you're better, or being too aware, being too conscious. No, it's just we've gotten caught in this habit of thinking all the time. And guess what? People who are less intelligent, they're more able to remain in the present moment because they don't have all these thoughts pulling them out of it. That is why ignorance is bliss. I'll give you an example from my life, for instance. On the spiritual journey, we can kind of get fascinated with all these spiritual ideas, the philosophy, these big picture things, even the conspiracy theories and things like that. But if you are not free, not good. I love a conspiracy theory as much as the next person, but I'm already free. It's not going to ruin my life. I'll feel nothing about it. It doesn't matter. Oh, reptilians are ruling the world? Cool. I don't care. But it's interesting. I don't mind talking about it. But if you have yet to fully establish in the present moment, then such kind of ideas, the philosophy, the big picture things, they can keep you stuck in your mind and stagnate your spiritual growth. So sometimes you kind of have to forget about the philosophy and the ideas, and yes, it's cool, but unless you're free, what's the point? Now I can go back and talk about whatever. Doesn't matter if it's a dark, difficult topic, doesn't matter if it's fun and light. It's all the same to me because I'm not attached to my thoughts. Once you're free, go ahead and think about what you want. But so long as you're a slave to your mind, everything's going to be a bit of a struggle. Now, I've created a new program just for this, down below if you're interested. So now that we understand a bit of the underlying problem, let us return to the Align method. A equals awareness. What we want to do is we want to become aware of our energy, aware that there is an imbalance, a problem. It's kind of like accepting that something needs to be done and that we can't keep living this way forever. So you become aware of the problem, and now you set the intention to change, to heal, to return to balance. Then the next step, L, listen to your body. There is something called the emotional guidance system, and it's an inner compass. Simply put, you can just imagine it like how a plant exists. A plant knows when it's growing closer to the sun and when it's straying further away. Light, dark, yes, no. You can even look at the little bugs. You see how they're running around always looking like they're on some kind of mission? But they just have this on-off button. Yes, no, yes, no. I'm going this way, not going that way. Oh, I'm eating. And we have that same system too. But because of our mind and our thoughts, we have lost touch with it because it's rooted in our body. So, be aware of your thoughts and your energy, and your emotions moving forward. During the day, life, God, the universe, It's always guiding us with this system. It's saying, hey, look, what you did right here is keeping you from what you truly want. Think about God or the ultimate, or your soul, or your dream life, the good stuff. Think of it like an eternal sun within you. And that sun, instead of radiating light and warmth, it radiates love, joy, and peace, and abundance. So, every time we inch closer to that inner sun, guess what? We're gonna feel good. We're gonna feel more love, more joy, more abundance, more peace. And so what we do moving forward, we just begin listening to our body, what it's telling us. You'll have some thoughts, and you'll start to feel good or bad. And the moment you start feeling bad, you can kind of stop and reflect. Say, what was I just thinking about that caused these negative feelings? That is creating the suffering. Because that is what is happening. We do not suffer because of what happens to us. We suffer because of our reaction and our judgment about what happens to us. And this is great news, because you can stop reacting. We only have power over two things in this life: our conscious thoughts and reactions, or our conscious actions. That is all. Nothing else. So you just have these two options. Okay, something is creating suffering. Do I need to change my thoughts, or do I need to change my actions? And sometimes you can change your actions by changing your thoughts, changing your reactions. And with the awareness, you gain a little bit more power to choose. Because fundamentally, awareness is consciousness. And consciousness is the divine essence of God, of what we truly are. So, the more aware you become, the more God power you have. So you can choose. The more free will. And the reason that we're stuck in suffering is because we're living in unconsciousness. We're living in darkness. That is why sometimes we feel confused. We don't know what's going on. And so by becoming aware of the problem, now you can fix it. Which leads us to step 3, Igna. Ignite balance. So the process goes a little bit something like this. Okay, you're aware of the problem. You're aware of the imbalance. Now you're listening. You're paying attention to your body. What is it trying to tell you? It's leading you toward the imbalance, the underlying attachment, the underlying identity. And you'll see how you kind of get caught in these stories in your mind. These judgments about life, about yourself, about others. And that is what is creating all the misery. We do this unconsciously. We're always ruminating on things. It seems like a lot of people kind of just have this never-ending stream of thoughts running in the background all the time. And guess what? That is going to make you exhausted. Think about how spiritual mystics, they always talk about only sleeping like 3 to 4 hours a night. Listen to Sadhguru. Why is this? It's because they're so deeply connected to life. They don't need to sleep. They're always pulsating with the divine essence of life. But the more you're separated from that life, the more you need to sleep. Because every night in deep sleep, we return to source. And that powerful life energy floods our body and does all its healing things. So a mystic is always in balance. They're always in harmony with life. And that is why they can be blissed out sometimes. Because remember, it's the source of all joy, love, and peace. And you can ask yourself right now, on a spectrum of 1 to 10, 10 being heaven and 1 being hell, where are you on the spectrum? And that will tell you, generally speaking, how connected or disconnected you are to life. So, if we want to get those numbers up, we want to be aligned. And you'll know when you're aligned because it just feels right. The body will tell you, yes, do this. This is where we want to go. And it will say, no, stop it, stop it, stop it. But if we're unconscious, if we're not paying attention, then we can kind of just ruin our lives on accident. Especially in modern society, we have been so disconnected from our body that we're always just thinking. So we have to return back to this inner wisdom that is always there guiding us. And what will happen is that it will lead us to the imbalance. We'll become aware of the root of the problem. And once you become aware, now you know the remedy. Because all we have to do is remove from ourselves that which is keeping us stuck. Like the sticks in the stream. We don't have to do more. We don't have to try so hard. All we have to do is find the blockage, start removing it. And how do we remove it? We're all connected to Source, life, God. Like a little umbilical cord, we're connected to it. But our mind is like a valve to a hose. It either constricts the flow of life or it opens it up. So, the more attachments we have, the more clogged that hose gets. And the more constricted we become, the more we suffer. Where life is not, death is. And that is depression, lethargy, misery. That is hell. So, all that is required, we return to balance. And the great news is, our awareness alone heals us. So it's not like you got to spend years of inner work and shadow work of, trying to heal yourself. This may happen, but all we have to do is become aware, and when the thoughts arise, we just look at them. We're just cultivating awareness. The attachments create darkness, death, and so the cure is awareness, that is light. And the very nature of awareness is non-attachment. Think about it this way. When you observe anything, automatically there are two elements. There is an object that you observe, and there is you there as the subject, or the awareness observing that object. So, you naturally create space between whatever it is you observe and you. Non-attachment. But what happens is we get pulled into unconsciousness. Let's say we have a bunch of thoughts. So our attention gets pulled into the thoughts and we become one with the thoughts. And then they pull us all over the place, hemorrhaging our energy, making us miserable, getting us sent into fight or flight, the survival response. And why does this happen? The attachment, which is fueling an identity, causes us to identify with our thoughts. We, in some way, believe that we are our thoughts. And it's not true. You are the awareness behind the thoughts. And so the reason we're living in ignorance is because we have placed our identity on a false assumption. We have been disconnected from the true nature of what we are. That is the underlying awareness, the consciousness, the divine essence of God. This is one of the first teachings in the Bhagavad Gita. Krishna says to Arjuna, we suffer because we don't realize that we are a soul that is eternal. But we believe that we are a body, we are human, that we are a mind. But you are not a human having a spiritual experience. You are a spiritual being having a human experience. Think of it this way. Imagine a wall with a screen on it. And in front of the screen is a projector, light. And it illuminates on the screen reality as it is. But because we live as a person, we live attached to ego identity, there is a person-shaped shadow blocking the light. And that is the accumulation of all of our identities, all of our beliefs, all of our stories. And these things create blockages from the light, the flow of life. So this shadow gets projected onto the world, and that is what we experience. We don't experience reality as it is. We only experience reality as we are. So, the problems we experience are nothing more than reflections of ourselves. We deal with the inner work. If we were to just deal with ourselves, focus our mind one-pointedly on becoming free from these attachments, our life would begin flowing effortlessly because we would be getting to the root of the problem. That is this. Do you want to know the secret? The most powerful secret? I shouldn't be telling you this. This light is the Christ. The only thing separating you from someone like Jesus or even the Buddha is that they became nobody. And guess what? The light of Christ was able to express itself effortlessly through them. That is why they were God in form. So are you. It's just there's all of this kind of stuff in the way. Think of it also like a mirror. The mirror of Jesus is clear, it's pure. And so the pure reflection can be seen. But because we have all of these attachments, all of this conditioning, It's like dirt and mud covering the mirror. So we live our lives with this kind of distorted perception of ourselves. And it's not true. This is true. And that is why we live in ignorance. Because we are ignorant of our true nature as the Christ, as the divine essence of God, as the soul, however you want to put it. And the crazy thing is, the source within us, which is the source of everything, its very nature is wholeness, it's balance. So we don't even have to create balance. That's not how it works. We just have to remove the things that are creating the imbalance. Life, most often, is a process of removal, not of gaining, not of doing. So I encourage you, my friend, embark on a journey of self-discovery. Continuously reflect on yourself. You will always be the bottleneck to your experiences, which means that if you just focus on yourself and reflect in a positive and constructive way, you can solve all your problems in this life. Because this little stick person right here is the root of all problems, and it shall now be sent back to the void for all eternity. Peace, relief, joy, love, harmony. It's the default state. We're all born enlightened. We just become endarkened through the conditioning of our experiences. And most people stay stuck because they don't know how to change. So, embark on a journey of self-discovery, which will lead you to awareness. Awareness of your thoughts, which leads you to awareness of your underlying identities, the beliefs, the stories, which will lead you to the underlying deeply rooted attachments, which will lead you ultimately to freedom. Because if you think about it, that shadow, it cannot survive the light. What power does darkness have in the presence of the light? No power. So your light alone is what heals. We start using our emotional guidance system, our inner compass that is leading us back to the truth. You become aware of the things that make you feel more love, that are fun, that bring joy, peace, happiness to your life. And you start paying attention to all the things that separate you from this, all the things you hate, all the things that bring suffering, all your negative thoughts. As you become aware of these different things that are sabotaging your life, that are keeping you from the present moment, you gain the power to choose. So for instance, if you have this bad habit of ruminating, overthinking, worrying excessively, what will happen is that as you become aware, you catch yourself doing this, you snap yourself out of this kind of haze, this hypnosis, this unconsciousness. And in that moment, balance occurs because you take the light of your awareness and shine it upon the unconsciousness of your actions. Because think about it, you wouldn't consciously ruin your life. So we have to do it on accident. And so you catch yourself, and in that moment, you consciously decide to go and focus on something else. Because your mind can only focus on one thing at a time. Return to the present moment. How do we do this? Flow equals engagement. Use your emotional guidance system to tell you what is the next step to take. What is the one thing that calls out to you in this present moment that you can do? Do what is in front of you. We want to take action because in the present moment, in a flow state, is a state of no mind. And so our thoughts are not able to steal our energy. And that is how we connect with life. And every time we do this, we break the habit of negative thinking. If you imagine a train of negative thoughts, through your awareness, through your conscious choice to focus on something else, you continue to pull the brakes before the train can ever build up momentum. And you will find, as you practice this, great relief will fall upon you. More peace, more love, more joy. And the life within you will cleanse you of that exhaustion, of that tiredness, of the depression, of the lethargy, the lack of motivation and desire. You'll feel alive again. Just think about all the people who are like the living dead, the zombies. They're walking around, they're doing things, but they have been cut off from their soul, so they are lifeless. Do not be like them. The moment you reconnect to your soul, and you become aligned with your soul's purpose, through finding what brings you joy, love, and peace, You'll have endless energy. You might not even want to go to sleep because you're so excited to be alive. And that is what I want for you, my friend. And that is why I designed my new program, Monster Mind Mastery, to help you break free from the prison of your mind so you can reconnect with life and experience peace and relief and not live with this unbearable burden anymore. And so if you're interested, click the link below. Much peace and many blessings, and remember, just be.